A naturalized American from India has now been stripped of his citizenship. All of this is part of the government's initiative to clamp down on fraudulent immigration. The individual has now been identified as Baljinder Singh from New Jersey. Singh became a naturalized citizen back in 2006 after marrying an American. The U.S. Justice Department has said that Singh arrived in the United States back in 1991 without travel documents or proof of his identity. This is the first denaturalization under Operation Janus, which is a long-running Department of Homeland Security's initiative against fraudulent immigration. On Monday, the U.S. government announced the end of a special protected status for about 200,000 Salvadorian immigrants. Let's go straight to our correspondent joining us now live. We're joined by Rachel Silverman, who is in San Francisco with the very latest details. Certainly, immigration crackdown and making sure those who don't have a legal status are now being targeted. What's the latest that you can bring to us?
Well, this case with Mr. Singh is the first of its kind. Authorities say he acquired his citizenship fraudulently, and they've revoked it. They say Singh first came to the U.S. in 1991, arriving in San Francisco without any travel documents or proof of identification, saying his name was Baljinder Singh. He was placed in exclusion proceedings but failed to appear for his immigration court hearing and was ordered excluded and deported in 1992. But 4 weeks later, he filed an asylum application under the name of Baljinder Singh. He claimed to be an Indian who entered the U.S. without inspection and then abandoned his asylum application, married a U.S. citizen who applied for a visa on his behalf, and then in the year 2006 became a naturalized citizen under the name Baljinder Singh. So now the authorities have revoked his citizenship, reverted his status to a green card holder. That leaves him subject to deportation proceedings, and all this at the discretion of the Department of Homeland Security. This case is part of a wider initiative called Operation Janus to crack down on fraudulent immigration. Authorities say they've ID'd more than 300,000 cases where there were issues with fingerprint data at a central database. And in many of those cases, the Justice Department says individuals may have sought to circumvent criminal records and other background checks in the naturalization process. We don't know if they're saying that is the story with Mr. Singh. Nonetheless, his naturalization has been revoked, and he's now, as I said, subject to deportation hearings at the whim of the Department of Homeland Security. Back to you.
Rachel, let me also ask you with regards to this. We understand this is something that started during the Obama era, certainly being continued by the Trump administration. How are these candidates, how are these people sort of being identified? Is it because of missing documentation, perhaps things like birth certificates or fingerprints, or those who perhaps failed to provide information like a criminal history? Who are these people that the Department of Homeland Security is focusing its interests on at this point?
Well, the Department of Homeland Security says that this is all fingerprint related. They say that there are people who may have wanted to hide criminal records. It's very difficult for us to know now exactly who these people are, whether they're people who have been law-abiding citizens and somehow just have managed to get caught up in a renewed effort to look at data that the Trump administration has started looking at because of its ramped up effort to enforce immigration laws and carry out Donald Trump's immigration policies.
Rachel, in terms of the mood there in the United States, certainly with what is being happening recently with the crackdown, certainly with what happened with the Salvadorian immigrants, I mean, the plight of immigrants, is this a much more difficult time to be in the United States for many people, whether they're from Salvador or they're from India or any other immigrant community? Is it more tough with the government really paying attention to things like we pointed out, documentation, to make sure that only those who are legally in the United States have the rightful duty to stay there? What is the atmosphere like, especially with this new administration? Amongst the immigrant community, there are people who are
every day living in a constant state of fear. Parents who are afraid they're going to be deported and will have to leave behind their U.S. citizen children. Children who were brought to the United States after they were born, like say at the age of 5, who are not citizens, whose parents are citizens, who are afraid they'll be deported. So there's fear amongst families that they'll be split apart. President Trump's policy is popular amongst a certain percentage of Americans here in the United States, but certainly it does not enjoy a widespread popularity amongst all Americans.
And when it comes to this specific case with Baljinder Singh, we understand he's denaturalized. What are the options at this point? I mean, we understand that perhaps now if going from a citizenship status, it goes down to a green card status. Does that necessarily mean deportation, or is that still to be disclosed? What are the likely scenarios that are to play out at this point?
Well, not all green card holders will be deported. As I said, what we've learned is that this will be at the discretion of the Department of Homeland Security. And really, I have no way of predicting how to read who it is that they will try to deport and who they won't. I assume they'll take a look at they say that they have 1,600 people that they plan to refer for prosecution. It's not clear which of those people will be given deportation hearings and which of those people will be allowed to live out their lives peacefully here in the United States.
All right, Rachel Silverman getting us the very latest.
The situation is, of one...
Sorry, go ahead. I apologize. Finish your sentence.
Thank you. I was going to say it's a question for people who really have no idea how to plan their lives, where to go, what will happen to them. Really a situation of feeling very insecure for many people here in the United States who are not U.S. citizens, or in the case of Mr. Singh, who was a U.S. citizen but whose naturalization has now been ripped from him.
All right, Rachel Silverman getting us the very latest there from San Francisco with regards to the plight of immigrants in the United States. Thank you for those updates.